Okay, 3 things you should keep in mind or always do when you're practicing, part 3. I think it's really important for students, especially young students, to be careful about outside and inside influences. Outside are things like what you think people are saying about you, or sometimes even what they are saying about you. Inside influences would be what you're saying to yourself. The things that you're saying to yourself about your capabilities and how good or not good you are. Again, it's that sort of comparison thing. Like, you need to look back at where you were and remember and remind yourself how far you've already come, right? Because these things, these stories that we sometimes think other people are telling us or that we're telling ourselves, they really have a negative effect on our confidence, don't they? I mean, have some of the things that you say to yourself in your head, right? That self-talk gets in there and it starts really messing with your confidence. And that's really hard to deal with when you have to walk out on stage. We want to get a handle on this. You want to learn how to refocus and reframe your conversations in your head and what other people are saying about you. Sometimes it has nothing to do with what you think it does, right? I mean, I use the 20, 40, 60 rule. At 20 or younger, you think everyone is talking about you and thinking about you. At 40, you don't so much care, right? You're comfortable in your own skin. You're like, whatever. At 60, you realize that everybody's just living their own life, right? I did a show a couple of days ago, and there were a couple of notes that I wish I had hit differently. There is no way, I mean, do you think anyone that was at the show is right now today, as I'm filming this 3 days later, do you think they're in their world, in their lives thinking, gosh, that note that she hit? No, they're taking their kids to, soccer or basketball, or, well, it's fall, so football, right? They're doing their thing. They're planning dinner. They're going to yoga. They're kayaking or what. They're not thinking about 1 or 2 notes that I thought I could have hit better. That was my challenge to myself, to say, hey, that wasn't as consistent as I'd like it. So that's something for me to work on. That's an area of growth. I like those challenges, right? It wasn't awful, but it was something that I will work on doing better. Okay, so be careful about those stories that you're telling yourself. The second thing I really want to say, especially to young singers, is build a community of people around you who you can trust to help you and to advise you. Okay? There's a lot of really, really well-meaning people out there who just don't know a lot about singing, and they tend to give layman advice, which sometimes can just be flat out bad, and they're just really not qualified to be coaching you in what you're doing singing-wise. There are a lot of amazing qualified coaches and people in your life who know you really well. Seek out those people, because you're going to want feedback from those people, and you have to be willing to be open to that and say, okay, yeah, that's good. I can see that. Like the show that I said earlier that I had just done a few days ago, one of my longtime friends, we've been working in the music industry since I was 19 years old. We've been doing shows together and performing together. I trust her implicitly, and she gives me honest feedback. And we talked the next morning after my show, and I will implement many of the suggestions that she made. It's always really interesting and good to get an outside opinion of what you have done, because how it feels to you and maybe how it is perceived by someone else could be 2 very different things. So that's why you really want to get somebody that you trust, who can look at you objectively, watch and listen to what you're doing, and give you some great feedback. Okay, that's number 2. And again, here's number 3. There's this thing out there, everybody's talking about it, the imposter syndrome, right? You don't feel like you're good enough. You're like, I can't do this. You get on social media and everyone looks perfect, right? Before doing this, I was in no makeup. My hair was a complete disaster. I went and put makeup on so that I would look more presentable to do these videos. I don't always have makeup on. People on social media don't always do things perfectly. And yet we start comparing ourselves to these people that we see. And sometimes, especially if it's celebrities, they've been airbrushed and, you know, they have all the best clothes, all the best makeup, all the best hair. They have people to do it for them. It's unrealistic of us to think we can be like that all the time. They're not even like that all the time. So we really need to stop comparing ourselves to other people. And when you're singing, please, please, please stop comparing yourself, especially again if you're a young singer, or if you're singing a new style or a new genre. Stop comparing yourself to the person on the record. Their voice is capable of that because that's their natural sound. What you need to be focused on is building your natural sound, taking what you do that's the best and most unique thing you do, and that's what you should focus on. Building that, not trying to do something that someone else has done, because your voice just may not do the same thing. I would love to be a gymnast, but there is just no way I'm going to, my body is not built that way. And especially, you know, getting older, that's just not something I'm going to do. So I have to do what I do to the best of my ability every single time I walk out on that stage. Does that make sense? Okay. And the biggest thing there is you have to be willing to let go of those stories. You have to be willing to change your stories. You have to be willing to change what you say to yourself and the things that you think are real. Look for evidence. Is this really real? Is this really true? And if the answer is no, then you have to be willing to let go of them. And if you're not, hanging on to those beliefs that wreck your confidence and force you to play small instead of going really big and maybe being bold and going after your career, if you hang on to those things, what's it going to cost you? If you're, you know, if you're okay with that, then great. But for me, those things disturb me. They make me crazy. Like, I really want to be better than I am. And so I push myself. So I think those are a few things also that are important. Maybe some of them are important to you. And if they are, think about them, and think about them when you're practicing. Keep yourself focused and aim high. All right.